Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Press Box. It is Wednesday, November 2nd, November already. Oh my. And we are here. Kenny Varner, my co host. Kenny V, what's up?
Hey, not too much. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hanging in there. Don't like that winter's coming though. I'm getting old.
No, but
Old on the bones.
got some good promising weather for the weekend though.
Yeah, I
Saturday
saw that.
night.
But tonight is extra special for me. Our guest, I got to tell this story quick before you could see who it is bringing him in. But uh, we have, and I'm thrilled to have new Mifflin County Hall of Famer Joe Heller, the only two-time, I'm not the only, sorry, Trent, the first two-time state champion in Mifflin County history. But it's special to me because everybody that's around Mifflin County knows what an exciting time that was with him and Kenny Weitzel. And those were the two guys, Joe and Kenny, that got me into this sport. And I've been a fan of it now and have been covering it for 30 years. I've been a fan of it for 50. And it is just an honor to have Joe here. And Joe, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Well, we got a lot to chat about, and I'll tell you what, I can see the people that are coming on, and there's a lot of people coming on to hear you, man. You know, that's what happens when you're a legend.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'd say maybe just an old wrestler.
Well, actually, though, 2 years ago, which I thought was a great idea, Mifflin County finally started up a Hall of Fame, and you were inducted recently in the second class. They did their first class last year. So you're in the second class, the first wrestler inducted. Tell me your thoughts about that and what was going through your mind when one you found out you got in and then when you made your speech.
When I first found out that I was being considered was actually the year before last, and Tim Sear walked me through the process and kind of kept me in the loop of everything that was going on and how the really the nominee process gets eliminated down. And then the first year, of course, I did not get selected. And when Tim called and told me who did, I said, well, it's no wonder I really didn't get in because I wouldn't have voted for myself in that group either. And then last year, for this year, on September 25th, I was inducted into the Mifflin County Hall of Fame as the first wrestler, and it's quite an honor. I'm just thrilled to be in there with those that went in ahead of me and those that are going to come behind me.
Yeah, because there's a bunch to go, to get through. Rod Tate will get in, I'm sure. Kenny Weitzel will get in. Eventually, when we're all really old, the Hidleys will get in. Because we have a lot to go through in other sports, but the speech. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but Kenny Varner was there and said it was a great speech. How long did it take you to come up with it, and what were you feeling when you were up there giving your speech?
Well, when I was kind of notified that, hey, you're in, and you have the X amount of time to kind of talk about whatever you like, and they didn't. The Mifflin County Hall of Fame did not put any kind of restrictions on what you could talk about. So, to me, I just wanted to tell about my wrestling career from my perspective. And just let people know that there was kind of a lot of stuff going on there in those years. But one of the cool things about at least my induction was I got to have my three children introduce me. So Caitlin
Nice.
and Ethan introduced me into the Hall of Fame.
That's cool. How old are your kids?
Excuse me, Brian?
How old are your kids?
Caitlin's 31, Joseph's 29, and Ethan is 21.
Wow, we're getting old, aren't we?
Yeah, time flies.
It's interesting you brought that up, what wrestling gave you in your perspective. I'm going to start right from the beginning. When was it that you said, I want to wrestle? And what got you into it?
Well, I was pretty young, and I was just I was just a Yeagertown boy, and you know, I just come home from grade school one day and told my parents, "Hey, I'd like to try wrestling at the Burnham Y." And they took me over, and I started when I was in about fourth grade, and I really liked it, and it helped because uh, I was kind of good at it right away. So it was like before we got going, I liked the development, I liked the winning, but I had some great like coaches early, like you know. I had guys, Kerm Weitzel, Kenny Weitzel's dad was a tremendous YMCA coach. A guy by the name of Artie Purcell, and that was Tommy Purcell's dad, who really, you know, they knew how to teach the sport, the basics of the sport,
Right.
and you through the Burnham Y. And we had just a great group of kids to be around. I mean, there were a lot of good wrestlers walking around in the YMCA those years.
Yeah, I think we got to explain to maybe some young people watching. There was none of these camps and all this off-season wrestling that you do now. You basically had the YMCA.
You had the YMCA, and until you progressed through that, uh, into about seventh grade, then you started to pick up some of the other tournaments, and then in about ninth, 10th grade, you started to pick up some of the bigger statewide tournaments and national qualifying events and that type of stuff. But it wasn't like it is now. You weren't coming out of the chute at with a 7-year-old national tournament or anything like that.
Right.
It didn't happen.
So you took to it right away, and you were good at it pretty quickly. What do you attribute that to? Was it just like the passion you were having for it right away? I mean, because I know like some people aren't like that. Like I remember Ty Moore told a story. The late former 4-time state champ, his very first match, he got pinned by a girl.
Well, you know, I can tell you my first YMCA match was at the Burnham Y in the old gym, and I lost to a kid from Williamsport who was actually turned out to be a pretty good wrestler in his later years. But that's how you learn. That's the sport of wrestling. Nobody stands at the top all the time. You have to learn from your mistakes and kind of persevere and go forward. And that's what we did in the Y. I mean, we all wrestled through the year, and then we entered the Pennsylvania AAU tournament, which was the big kind of advancement tournament of the time. And we all took our lumps somewhere along the line in that. And those lumps are what build us into being better wrestlers every year.
Yeah, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. I think another thing that I liked about wrestling is that it doesn't matter. Like you have certain sports where size matters, and wrestling it's not because of weight classes and that. So anybody can do it.
Yeah. And that applied to me at least through my elementary years. When I hit junior high, the lowest weight class, 80 pounds, was optional, but the official weight was 85. And I went into junior high weighing 70 pounds. So like I wrestled 2 years well below the lowest weight class. And then I did it again in 10th grade. I was, I wrestled 98 and I weighed 82. And,
Wow.
that's a lot of weight to give away, but you learn to eliminate a lot of mistakes. I can tell you that.
Now you got to junior high. Who was your junior high coach?
My junior high coach was Ron Sprecher, and he was just
Oh,
Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame.
yes, Brecker's got the fountain of youth.
I credit Ron Sprecher with he's the guy that showed me a series of moves that got to be pretty important to me, which was a fireman's carry and dump series. Ron Sprecher is the one that introduced me to that, and I worked that series the rest of my career, or parts of it.
Mhm.
That you learn to dump to one side and you learn to deep single to the other. You learn to drag to a dump. You learn to drag to a single. But a lot of that technique was shown to me by Ron Sprecher, believe it or not, in junior high.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of younger people don't realize that Sprecher was a wrestling coach too, not just track and cross country.
Yeah, he was. He was a very good wrestling coach, and he was also, the one thing you got to love about Sprecher, and I think the reason I took to him and he to me some was, we're both pretty intense. Even today, like my kids will say, "Holy cow, Dad, your intensity's through the roof." My wife will tell me, "Hey, turn it down a notch, here, big boy." But we were both kind of on that high go, high intensity, let's get this going type thing all the time.
Well, you need that, don't you, to achieve what you achieved.
Yeah, I did. I think there's a lot of different ways guys and kids approach it. Me, I needed that intensity. I loved it. I I I wanted to score. I wanted to win. Uh, but I was going to be smart about it. But the more physical to me didn't mean a lot of points sometimes, but the more physical, the higher intensity, the better. That's just the way I was wired, I guess.
It's funny you brought that up because the fireman's carry the firemen sort of symbolized Chief Logan down through the years. You had it. Joe Daubert lived on it.
Yeah, I was a fireman's guy, and I was really a dump series guy, often set up by a opposite side knee pick single. So you had your single really working to the left to set up your dump, which was coming back to the right. And it really confused a lot of people.
Yeah, that would. That would. So you got into high school then, and as you said, as a sophomore, you were underweight. You said 82, right?
Yeah, I was 82 pounds, wrestling 98 that eventually went to 102.
But you still made it to states. You
Yeah,
were back then. There was none of these wrestlebacks. You had to get to the semis.
yeah, that's right. I started as the Double A District 6 section in those days had 16 teams in each section.
Yeah,
And then it
I,
came together
I remember.
for a 32 team district. And then that fed into the Northwest region and then the state. And I went in seated 7th out of 16 guys in the section as a sophomore. And immediately in the second round, upset the second seed, which set me up nicely going into the districts where I beat the second seed from the other half the section and the first seed from the other half the section to get to the finals. And then at the regions, I was a district runner-up, and I was beating a district champion from Iroquois with like 15 seconds to go, I think I was up 6-5, and the kid ended up throwing a desperation far cradle, and it worked. And he ended up beating me 7-6, but it was fall of the winter, kind of like the international style now.
Yeah.
And the kid that I lost to actually won his way into the finals, which pulled me back in. And I left that weekend winning 3 and losing 1, and placed 3rd in the region, weighing 82 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you got the skates. Was that at Rec Hall?
That was at Rec Hall. My first 2 years were at Rec Hall. And
talk about that experience of going down there as a wide-eyed sophomore, 82 pounds.
Here's one. This is a story not many people know. When I made the States as a sophomore, we did not go over to State College and stay. Charlie and Bob Torok rented a van, and we were driving over that morning. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think I'd be in the tournament too long to waste a hotel room on. I don't know. But they picked me up in a van, and that morning it snowed. And it snowed so bad, we had to come off the 7 Mountains and go up over Belleville and try to get to State College that way.
Oh, man.
And we got there, and weigh-ins were closed. I'd missed them. So Charlie and Bob went to somebody in the PIAA who opened the weigh-ins back up. I weighed in, got dressed, and walked immediately out on the mat to wrestle. And promptly lost.
Wow. Okay, so that wild experience, but what did you learn? Because we're going to get into the next 2 years. But how did help you down there, and what did you learn down there that transitioned into the junior and senior years you had?
I've read some things, and what happened to me when I was there, it wasn't the environment. I got to see kids that I had beat in the region winning. And it started me thinking that, hey, that I really wasn't that far off being really good. And it was kind of like an aha moment where you realize I can do this. And that happened to me in my 10th grade, my sophomore year, sitting in the stands watching after I was out of that tournament. And, the other thing that really stuck with me then was I just hated to lose. I just detested it. And not that I was a bad sport, but, I carried losses hard. And I knew I could wrestle with those guys. That's what I realized in 10th grade.
It's an obvious question, but I want to get your answer. How important then? I mean, everybody talks about the physicalness of wrestling, and it's tough. But how important is that mental aspect to believe that you're going to go out there and win?
Oh, it's as important as the physical side of it. I mean, anybody can hand out a physical beating. And it's just your mindset if you're going to take a beating, enough of a beating to win. But the belief that you belong, right? That you belong there, you can compete there, is absolutely the driver that'll get you to win. Because everybody at that level, or most guys at that level, they have talent, they have physical skills, and they're tough, right? It's at the end, it's that belief that I can out-tough you, I can outscore you, and if need be, and it is need be, I will prove that to you. And that's the approach I took, at least in 10th grade.
Because then you got the states as a sophomore, which was great, but the light bulb really came on then. Junior and senior year, everybody knows about the two state titles. You
Yep.
went 54-1.
Yep. 55.
55, I'm sorry, 55-1. I got to ask a question
Uh-huh.
that I never knew. Who was the loss to?
I lost my junior year in the region semifinals to a guy by the name of John Baker from North Star. But what people don't realize is that match I lost, I was ahead 10-2 going out of the first period.
Oh my God. What
Mhm.
happened?
I just got caught on my back and bridge for I don't know, almost a minute and a half, didn't get pinned. Tied the match, went into overtime 11-11, and I got beat pretty handily in overtime just because I couldn't see. I was just that tired from all the bridging.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. My Lord.
So, and then I lost that match in overtime, but I blew a 10-2 lead.
So we get to your junior year,
Mm-hmm.
and you win it.
Yes.
And one of the wildest scores, 1-0.
Yep.
1-0. Which
Yep.
the last time I remember a 1-0 was when Bob Truby beat John Likens. 1-0. And it was actually a great final. They
Yep.
were both going at each other. You beat a name very important to you, Vince Trevino of
Yes.
Northwest Lehigh.
Yep.
And for people who don't know, we'll tell you why it's important when we get to your senior year. But 1-0. Describe that match to me and what was going through your mind.
I felt my junior year, I beat an undefeated senior in the semis.
Yeah, that was Mike Maurer.
Yes. I beat him 9-7. And he was ahead of me 2-1 after a period, but I kind of got on a roll and ended up beating him pretty handily. More than the 9-7 score really indicated. I wrestled really well. So when I got to the finals, I felt pretty good. I was relaxed. I wasn't like confident, oh, I'm going to win this and nothing's going to stop me. But I felt that I belonged there. And we wrestled the first period to a nothing really standoff in the first period of my first state final match. He had a couple good shots, which I countered out of nicely. The second period, then I was on top. And I Vince Stravino for two. As a matter of fact, I had a count on two different occasions and didn't pick up the back points. You had to hold them for two swipes to pick up two. And I had 2-1 counts at two different times. So in the third period, I was down and I was working pretty hard, really working hard. And with 30 seconds to go, I escaped. And then it was a real mad flurry till the end. And that's the way it ended, with me almost snapping down and getting behind Vince. But time ran out, so it was a 1-0 win.
So for those of us who will never win a state title, what was that feeling like when you knew you did it?
The first one, it really didn't sink in. It was just another match that was over, and you won a tough match, right? I can remember getting my hand raised and looking up at that big board they used to have in Rec Hall and watching my opponent's name get turned off. because what would happen then is the winners' names would stay lighted in the finals, and that was kind of a validation of, boy, that really worked. When I walked off the mat, the only thing Charlie Roselle said to me, boy, that was pretty good. Let's go have a Coke. That was the whole discussion with Charlie about it.
You know, it's interesting you brought that up, because I've noticed I've had like the pleasure of covering the Hidleys when they won state titles. Um, Josh Kirsch of Mount Union when he won one. And the thing you guys have in common is that, like, you're so focused, where the normal person like us who aren't going to win a state title are thinking about how nervous we would be, and the emotion afterwards. And what I get from you guys is that, like, you're so focused in the moment, in the process, that doesn't enter the picture until later.
Yeah, really, for me, it was quite a bit later, hours later, when I got home. I know as a junior, when I got home, our house was crazy with visitors and party and all that stuff that was going on in Yagertown. And my dad came to me and said, do you need to be by yourself? And I did, and he took me. Or I just went to my bedroom, and to tell you the truth, I just had a good cry.
Right.
And then I come back downstairs, because it was like all that tension was finally. It just finally left.
Now, speaking of tension,
Uh-huh.
we go to your senior year.
Yeah.
How tough is that to repeat when you got the bullseye on your back?
For me, you know, it comes back to this intensity thing, and something else. Like, I learned to look at big matches in a pretty simplistic way, and I think it's pretty unique. I would look at a regional final or a state final, a state semifinal, in real simple terms. And to me, it was, I'm just going to find out today if I'm good enough to wrestle first string on your opponent's varsity team. In other words, it was just a big elimination match.
Well,
And then in the state finals, for me, it was, I'm just going to find out if I'm going to be the starter on every team, every AA team in this state. And that was my perspective, kind of how I kept everything in check. My senior year, there was a lot of tension, a lot of hype, and to tell you the truth, there were some matches that I didn't wrestle that great my senior year. I didn't lose, but I didn't wrestle near as well as I could have. But I a win's a win, and just keep moving. And that's really how I looked at it. When my state finals was over my senior year, I remember the physical sensation of, it was almost like somebody, you could physically feel the bricks being lifted off your back.
wow.
It was that much of a physical sensation, at least for me.
So you get to the finals,
Mm-hmm.
and oh my, there's Stravino again.
Yeah, that's right.
Honestly, did you find out? Did you think I want to see your thought processes, that might have been an advantage, because wrestled him the year before, you knew what he was going to do.
I didn't think about it. I knew it was going to be tight, right? I knew this this kid was he was incredibly strong, and he was very, very technically sound. I just knew I was going to have to wrestle good, and we'll just see where it's going to come out.
Now that one was 2-1. How? Take me through that one. What was happening? What was going through your mind?
I in the first period of my second state title match, I had really shot a nice cross-legged single, and kind of blew the finish on it, right? So we came back to the middle with, like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds left. And then that's when I worked and hit that opposite side dump to take Stravino down with 2 seconds to go in the first period.
Wow, one of those late takedowns.
Yeah,
The
so
backbreakers.
it was lucky. It was a great move by me, but it was really lucky for him because he was stuck. It was going to be not just 2; it was going to be 2 plus. It was just going to be, was it going to be 2 or 3 or over? Because it was that good a move. So this year, at the second period, he won the flip of the disc, took top, and he rode me the entire second period, like I rode him the year before the entire second period. He had even hooked up a far cradle at one point that I managed to weasel my way out of with a technique that I learned in wrestling camp years before, to keep me from being turned. So I went out of that period ahead 2-0. I was on top for the third, and I was a good rider. Like, I could ride pretty tight with a bar arm and keeping guys flat. And I sunk a bar arm on him and reinforced it and really pounded Stravino into the mat for a minute and a half. He was called for stalling. He couldn't get up, and instead of hitting for stalling again, the ref called a stalemate with like 20 seconds to go. So by then you're a senior. You kind of seen these situations before. So I knew then that when I was going to ride for as long as I could without being in danger, and then I was going to cut him, and I was going to win 2-1. He set out. I floated along behind him, and he posted his arm for a Granby roll. So I just chopped his arm and turned him loose, and he came out, and there were 4 seconds left, and it was over, and it was just a 2-1 win.
Yeah, big one though.
Yeah, it was. Charlie said again, he just looked at me and said, "That was pretty good. Let's go have a Coke."
So, did it hit you at all, or was it much later, like the first one that I actually made history? I'm the first 2-timer in our county's history.
I really didn't think about that for a lot of years. Probably really didn't really even think about it too much till Trent Hidley joined the club, and then I thought, hey, that wasn't a bad run. That was 40 years till somebody.
Yeah, not a bad run at all.
So I really never thought about it. To me, it was about doing as well as you could do in that moment. It wasn't about 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 or this or that. It was about how good can you function in that moment. And I didn't really ever think about it that much.
Wow. I guess it's up to guys like us to do it. like Howard and me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just, I was glad, don't get me wrong, but I never put a lot of thought into it.
Now, you did say you had natural ability for it, but how, and I want young people to realize this who are young wrestlers, how much work went into it?
Oh,
How much work did you put into it?
I would say from the time I was in sixth grade till the time I graduated, I wrestled or did something wrestling related for a minimum of 2 hours a day, every day. In
Yeah.
wrestling season, I was probably starting in about October till the end of wrestling season in March. I was probably 5 hours a day.
Wow.
Of which 2 of it was just the standard high school wrestling practice. Every night of my high school wrestling career, every night after dinner, I went and I ran down the main street of Yeagertown, around the standard steel fence at the Cougar Corner, up through Burnham, all the way to the Metafield playground, and then back home on the main street of Yeagertown. Different levels with different like things in mind. Like one night I'd do 100-yard sprints that whole way. Sprint 100, run 10, or jog 10. Sprint 100, jog 20. And every night, something like that.
That's what I do. I sprint to my fridge.
I conditioning counted. Like conditioning counted. It wasn't that everybody wasn't conditioned. At a certain level, everybody's conditioned, but it was a lot of work. It thousands of single legs. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dumps and barrel rolls and fireman carries and setups and shooting under. I would put 2 chairs in the backyard at my house in Yeagertown and put like a broom handle across it and shoot under that all summer long. Shoot under it, all summer long.
Wow.
So that quite a bit of work. Push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups. I was never a big one on the free weights. I got too bored. I had to move around too much. But yeah, a lot of work. It didn't come easy.
I'm trying to get into your mindset. That's why I'm asking these questions. But like, do you have to make it like an obsession almost?
I did. Yeah, I did. One of the
Because I know
reasons.
you sound a lot like, I don't know if you ever heard him talk, but Kerry Colap.
Yeah.
Colap would do push-ups, sit-ups, shots all the time, and if he didn't do it, he felt guilty.
Well, yeah. My fear was that if I wasn't doing it, I was going to lose to somebody that was. You can't be or the fear of losing cannot be a motivating factor, because it was for me.
Did you set goals? Were you a goal setter? Or?
Oh yeah.
So the state championship was a goal?
Yeah, I had I stayed. Yeah, my brother and I stayed in the same bedroom when we were growing up. We had kind of bunk beds, and I don't know if you remember. You remember little label makers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 things on mine. One is in my mind, as goofy as it sounds, you had to win an AAU state title to have a good shot at winning a PIAA state title. So when I was wrestling in the Y, I had that label maker and I clicked out AAU state champ and I stuck it on the bed rail. Then when I got to high school, I put PIAA state champ and I stuck it on the bed rail. And hell, those things were probably there till the day my parents sold the bed.
That's neat. So you could see it every night.
Every night. Every night. I can still see it to this day. Black tape, white letters. AAU state champ. That's all it said.
That's cool. Did you visualize any of that stuff they talk about today?
No. I never visualized winning titles. I visualized winning matches. Like how I would react or beat, or here's how I'm going to go about attacking this guy. I would visualize that, but I wouldn't visualize here I am standing on the top of the platform. The deal with me on stuff like that was if you're winning matches, everything else is going to happen, right? So you don't have to worry about that, seeing yourself standing on a podium or a platform or getting a medal. That's just a byproduct of the work you've done to get you there.
That is so interesting. That is really interesting. I think a lot of things that people don't think about either is how good your teams were then.
Oh, yeah.
78 and 79, you were, I believe, I don't know if you remember, but I think you were sixth. You finished sixth in the state as a team in 78, and you were third in 79.
That's right. And won the District 6 AA team title both those years.
Yeah, I mean, and you had on your team Lou Copenhaver, who became a state champion the next year after you graduated. I think Tim Knorr was a place winner.
Yep. Louis Copenhaver, Ronnie Royer.
Ron Royer made it a couple times. Mark Leister.
Yep.
So it's sort of, and then on the other side, you had Weitzel and those guys.
Yep.
It was an electric era that we hadn't seen until the Hidleys came along.
Yeah.
And by then it was one school. What was that like back then? I mean, not just with you guys, but Lewistown too, having their kids that were pretty decent, and for the area to have wrestling like that.
Yeah, it was really neat. But the thing that you don't hear people talk about, and this is really pretty interesting when you think about it. You take the Lewistown teams of that era, 77, 78, 79, and you put them with the Chief Logan teams of 77, 78, and you see how many state qualifiers, place finishers, medalists, and state champions you have. And that was our YMCA team.
Nice team to have.
At the Burnham Y, that was our team. I mean, we in the YMCA, we would go to Lock Haven and just wipe the floor with them and some of the powerhouses, Williamsport. No. So, we all knew one another, and we competed against one another, but we really, it was always my impression that we liked one another. There wasn't the animosity that a lot of the fans and the Mifflin County wrestling people thought it was, because we'd grown up wrestling together.
Right.
So it was almost like, we want to see those guys do good, and there were a ton of good wrestlers that aren't even mentioned. There's your Frankie Brittons, your Stevie March, your Billy Chamberlains. I mean, it wasn't even the Chief Logan Lewistown dual meets when I was there. They weren't filled with animosity. They were filled with, we want to kick your ass. But there wasn't any animosity or dislike. I mean, we'd all been around one another and wrestled so much with one another and knew one another so much. We pretty much knew what the outcome would be.
Imagine if that team was one team like Mifflin County is now.
Oh, that people would still it would be it would have been really tough to duplicate.
Yeah. And I think another thing, and I want to get your thoughts on this, was the coaching we had in that era too, with Charlie and Bob Torlock. They were together for so long, Hall of Famers themselves in District 6. You're in
Yeah.
District 6, right? You better be.
Yes.
I was going to say, if you're not, something's very wrong.
No,
And even on the other side, Dick Tressler
mm-hmm.
at Lewistown. Talk about Roselle and Torlock and what they were like to have as coaches.
It with Charlie. Charlie ran the practices. Like he dished up the workouts, right? He ran the. Bob Torlock was the technician. Bob would always be the guy that would demonstrate a technique or a move, or here's how we want to handle this, or this is what you want to look for in this, and then do the drilling. And Charlie then would dish up the workouts. Like, okay, for the next hour and 10 minutes, we're going to wrestle round robins, or okay, everybody get a partner. Here's the situation. Go, and Charlie would handle all that. Bob would be the technician. And if we didn't wrestle very well or didn't perform good in a certain position on the mat, Bob would make all those adjustments. And Charlie would just beat them into us.
And I think a lot of people get lost. I mean, they know Charlie, Hall of Fame coach, but damn good wrestler.
Oh,
He was the first state finalist in Mifflin County history.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, he was entertaining to boot. Like, I got to know Charlie at a different level from a lot of guys, just because I'm the last. A couple of years, I was the last guy standing. So you got a little a different relationship, right?
Yeah.
I can remember when I lost in the regions. When I blew that lead and lost, Charlie was so mad at me. He threw my warm-ups at me when I was walking off the mat and told me that was just a bunch of baloney. And about an hour later, he come up. He said, I didn't think about it, but you did a pretty good job because you're not as big as these guys. Let's go have dinner.
Nice.
Take you out. But that's kind of how it worked. And after a while, Bob always helped keep you calm in the moment. Bob Torlock always helped keep me calm in the moment. This ain't no big deal. Let's just go out here and wrestle, and we'll think about this later, type thing. So you had the practices structured that way, and then you had the whole dynamic of the meet, right? And when you really wanted to get things crazy at Chief Logan, then you'd whip Sprecher in the show for about a day a week.
So then you went to Penn State, right?
The University of Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Virginia.
Yep.
But you didn't wrestle at Virginia. It was to get an education.
No, I did wrestle at Virginia.
See how much I know?
I lettered twice for the University of Virginia.
Oh.
Wrestled. I was not a great college wrestler. I was not a great college wrestler, especially by the standards of the Hidleys and the Nick Bedleons. They were great college wrestlers, right? I mean, they're just arms, head, shoulders above where I was at. But I did okay. I won some matches. I lettered twice. I think I come out of college with a winning record. And then I transferred to Penn State to finish my degree.
Okay, that's where I got confused.
Yep, that's the story there.
So, why was it Virginia? What did you like about them?
You know, I kind of think about that even to this day. I went to Virginia strictly based on the financials.
Okay. That's understandable.
It wasn't like a thought process of today. It was like, who's going to offer you the most, the highest level scholarship to wrestle, right? And Virginia, I got a full Division I ride, books, room, tuition. You just showed up, right? And you were in, no bills. Penn State, Arizona State, they were offering me my senior year about a quarter of a scholarship because they had that much more talent, right? I mean,
right.
So, and that's why I went to Virginia. I did like the coach, George Edwards. He was a Hall of Fame coach. We had a pretty good team. But when I was tired, when I was ready to get out, I was ready. When I was done, I was done. It's to me, the price got to be too high. Especially in the weight department, like it just got to be a real rigor for me to stay at 118, 125 pounds. You were cutting 30 pounds every season is kind of what I would cut.
Yeah, that would be a drag.
And after a while, it was a drag. I liked it.
I'm sorry.
But when I was done, I was done.
What, good or bad or both, what do you think of wrestling today, high school?
I'll tell you, here's what I still coach a little bit. So I still see some high school wrestling. Here's a couple of takeaways. No matter how good a kid is at 6 years old, does not mean it's going to translate to state and national titles.
And a lot of people think so.
Yeah, and that's not the way it is. My other takeaway on high school wrestling today is the average wrestler, I don't think is as skilled today as he was when I wrestled. But the offset to that is the peak, the top kids, the state place finishers are much better today than I was.
Yeah, I think do you think it too? I think it's because, like you said, you had the Y and then it's some AAU, but they can wrestle all year long now.
Yeah. Yes. But I guess that's my take. The average kid is probably not as technically sound as he was even when I wrestled, but the top kids are so much better. Like the mountaintop is that much higher, tougher to reach. And I also think that leads for your average kid to really lose interest quickly.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think we're ever going to see numbers back to where they were. Because even a big school, I mean, they're a smaller 6A, but, 3A, AAA, Mifflin County, they only, and as successful as they've been lately, they only average about 24, 25 kids a year.
Yeah, that's interesting because yeah, my senior year, our varsity and JV wrestling team, you know, we had, I think it was 48 kids. My junior high wrestling team had 60 kids on it.
Wow. The good old days.
Yeah, and that was just Chief Logan boys.
Wow.
So you don't see those kinds of numbers anymore. But the talent you see in the numbers is really at the top is really steep.
Yeah,
They
I
are
would
really,
agree.
really good.
Now um, you live in Benton, we were talking about before we got on.
Yes.
A wrestling place itself with the used boys and some
Yes.
of the Nolan Lear recently. But what are you doing? What your career path? What's you were at Overhead Door, right?
Yes. I was at Overhead Door Corporation for 14 years. Uh, I worked for a company called Cornell Ironworks for about 15 years. I'm semi-retired right now. Uh, I still do a little manufacturing consulting work in the door industry, about 2 a month, and I'm a volunteer assistant wrestling coach for Columbia Montour Votech.
Oh, that's right. I remembered that, and they were you know, like a lot of small schools struggling to get numbers, right?
Yeah. Our we probably start with a dozen kids, and by the end of the year, we are down to 8. It's you don't we don't get the numbers uh like some of the other area teams up here do.
Right.
Even Benton does not have big numbers. They just have a really good feeder program.
Hmm.
Uh, the big numbers up this way come out of your places: Montoursville, Muncie, Montgomery.
Muncie's been really good lately.
Yeah. That's where you really see the numbers on the double A side, and then the triple A up here's it's it's your Williamsport, Shikellamy, that type of stuff, and it's really a 5-team district.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Shikellami's nowhere near what they were.
No.
You and I both remember what they were like in the late '70s, early '80s.
Yeah. Chief Logan wrestled them. We went to Shikellamy, wrestled them in their gym, and hammered them.
I remember as a kid going up to one of these at Shikellamy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that stuck out to me after all these years is they had a sign up there at Shikellamy calling us the green slime. I remember that.
Oh well,
The green slime. You
yeah,
were probably too focused to even notice that sign.
yeah. I don't even think we did. I know we won that night.
uh, Final question.
Yes.
Don't want to take up too much of your time,
Mm-hmm.
but what do you feel wrestling has done for you as a person?
All the hard work, all the effort in it, to me, what wrestling did as a person, to me as a person, one, it taught me humility. Lose with grace, win with dignity, all the time. All the time. And work, work, work. And be resilient. And the one major thing it taught me was your own gauge and meter of success comes from within you. Nobody else can define you did well or you did not do well, although everybody tries. It's just in you. You know, and that's what I've tried to teach my kids is look, I can't look in you, but and just persevere, be tough, be compassionate, but always just give the best you got, no matter what you're doing.
I love it.
Great.
That's what taught me.
If you can't tell, this has been one of my favorite interviews ever. I never ran out of questions, and I could go all night, but I don't want to do that to you. I meant what I said in the beginning. You are one of the main reasons I got into this sport and I wasn't as good as you, not even close on the wrestling side, but I got on the writing and covering and media side, but I still enjoy it after 30 years, and you're one of the reasons, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to stop in and chat with us.
No, thank you so much. I enjoyed it immensely, and if you want to chat more, just give me a ring sometime.
You know I will. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that because you know I will.
Well, the door is open. Remember, I'm semi-retired.
Oh, sounds great. But I really appreciate it. I know Kenny does too, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and have a great evening.
You too.
You too. Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That is Joe Heller, two-time state champion from Chief Logan, the first two-time state champion, and freshly minted Mifflin County Hall of Famer. We thank him for being on the show. That's going to about wrap it up for tonight. Reminder, we'll have the high school football show on tomorrow. Playoff high school football preview show beginning at 5 o'clock. Kenny Varner and myself. And Kenny, any final words?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, this was the best hour I've had in a long time.
I loved it.
Learn a lot, and I love it. Great interview.
I loved it. I couldn't stop running my mouth. I still could have a million questions to ask Joe, but I didn't. I didn't want to extend it past an hour. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Press Box Show. I'm Brian Carson, Kenny Varner, and my co-host, and we'd like to thank Joe Heller for stopping in and giving us an hour of his time. And we will see you on the high school football show tomorrow, and then back here again for the Press Box next Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.